Hello and welcome back to Cameron King of the World Special Edition. And in this video I'm going to be talking about the trailers of Avatar: The Way of Water. The sequel, the long-awaited sequel to James Cameron's Avatar from 2009. 13 years on, we're finally getting that sequel that people still thought and maintained for many years would never happen. There's no way that he's going to release these films. It'll never get released. Well, yeah. Never get released. Well, in May of this year, 2022, the naysayers were proved wrong, and a teaser trailer for the film was finally unveiled. Now, I understand because the film has been kind of slated and dated many, many times, and I talked about each of those times in my video about the Avatar sequels and the original Cameron King of the World. I understand the fans feeling a bit blue-balled. No relation to the Navi intended there, but I understand it, but I just think that it's Cameron. He's been working on it for years, and you better believe that he's going to come up with something pretty spectacular, and that there is going to be a film. So I never thought, like some people did, that the film would just never happen, because he had very clearly, and they'd announced that they were working on it years ago, and he recently said that they officially began production in I think it was September or December of 2017. So he said a full 5 years to bring this film to fruition, and they've obviously filmed all of Avatar 3 and bits of Avatar 4. And then they're starting now to do the special effects work for Avatar 3. So it's all in production, it's all moving, it's all in the pipeline. But Way of Water actually just recently locked. So the film's done, about a few weeks before it's about to come out in cinemas. So no Peter Jackson Hobbit situation where he's still doing the sound mixing on the day of the premiere. Although it was the Wellington premiere, I think, so it wasn't like the world premiere. But yeah, he was still tinkering with the film the day off, which is kind of hilarious to me. But Cameron, he got it in the bag. It's locked and it's finished and ready for December 16th around the world. So the trailers, we're going to talk about them. I wish I'd filmed reaction videos and started this special edition series sooner, but it is what it is. I could have done some reaction videos and stuff and maybe broken down the trailers in a bit more detail, but I'm just going to give you a quick summary of my thoughts on them. The first one that came out in May 2022, I mean, it was special because it is a reintroduction to everyone to that world and that story, and I think that they played that trailer perfectly because there was no real story elements, there was no dialogue, or there was maybe one, I think that's the one at the end where he's like, this family is a fortress, but it's mainly no dialogue, it's just these beautiful images and this music that's very reminiscent of the first film. Of course, the composer of the original film passed away, and so we are we going to have that kind of musical bridge between the two films? Is it going to sound much different than the first film? I don't know. And obviously these trailers likely use music that has been created for the trailers or taken from other sources and is not part of the film score. But that's something that I learned with the Star Wars movies, where I was like, oh my god, this part of the score is amazing, and it's not a John Williams piece at all. It was never used in the film or designed to be used in the film. But the score in that first teaser trailer was really beautiful and really evoked Avatar and the visuals to go along with it, and just seeing those characters again, but seeing the ocean and the kind of the seafaring clan of the Navi that look very different was very cool, and it was like a flagpole kind of moment, I think, where it's like, yep, it's fucking coming. Just so you can shut your mouths about that for now at least, and for all you people who are interested in it, here's a view of what's to come. I was really excited. I thought, holy shit, I can't wait. And visually, it looked fantastic. And there was one thing where there's a shot of a Navi adjusting a leather strap while in the water. You later see in one of the later trailers, there's these kind of creatures that they ride above and under the water. And so it's one of the Navi kind of like just tightening their strap while they're riding it. And people were saying like, look at the quality of the CGI. And someone's like, no, that's clearly a physical hand. And it's not. So pretty good if you can get people looking at a compressed GIF on the internet and thinking that it's a real hand. So it's been really interesting to me to see the public discourse around this film, because for so many years it's been fuck James Cameron and fuck Avatar and Pocahontas in space, Dances with Wolves in space, Fern Gully in space. And it's just like, you know, you can apply that to so many. And I've talked about that before. You know, it's bullshit. You know, just say you didn't like the film that much. Say you didn't like the story because it felt similar or predictable. The Pocahontas in space thing is just so worn out and tired and unoriginal, and been spouted hundreds of times before, and will be spouted 100 times more in the future. You know, when you got James Cameron like saying in interviews in 2009, like, yeah, Dances with Wolves was an inspiration. Oh, he ripped off Dances with Wolves. It's just dances. Like, you know, who says that, you know, our Star Wars is just the hidden fortress in space? You know, no one. They're like, oh, did you know that George Lucas used parts of the hidden fortress? How cool is that? You know, and it's such a weird kind of thing. And I granted Star Wars took from so many different other elements that it kind of masked how much was being generously cherry picked from other things. Anyway, um, but it's been interesting to see people really excited about it, and other people saying, you know, there was one person who, you know, I liked, and I guess I don't did well. Yeah, no, I dislike him now. He's a filmmaker, and I've bought one of his films from him before personally. I contacted him, emailed him, paid for one of his films. Does experimental stuff, and he just commented on it saying like it looks like shite, expensive shite, and I was just like, is it really a good look or like advisable for a filmmaker to just like shit on another filmmaker publicly? Like, what are you gaining from that? And then the next trailer came out, and he's like, "Oh, it looks fucking shit." So I just deleted, not delete, but unfollowed him and muted him. Like, I just think there's no room for that. Like, it's not your thing. That's cool. Move on. You know, I just think that it just should be good manners as an artist to not shit on other artists. It doesn't matter if it's a guy who's the king of the world or has made billions of dollars or not. I think that it's a bit lame to see that, but you know, it is. People have their opinions, and people have said that it looks good, but it's probably going to be bad with the story or whatever. Or who still cares about that? But it's been really surprising to me to see so many more people engaged and excited about it. And then when Avatar was re-released in cinemas, people went, "Oh, this is really good," and oh, actually, I enjoyed it a lot more than I did the first time. You know, and I reconsidered it. So I'm really intrigued to see what happens. You know, first and foremost, I'm excited to see the film, but I'm really just fascinated to see what the reaction is going to be once it comes out. I'm sure there's going to be talk of bloated mess. You know, mark my words, bloated mess is going to be one of the reviews. But you know, even Cameron in interviews now is saying like I can already hear like people saying, "Oh, 3 hour fucking movie," and he's just like, "Don't give me that shit." You know, he's like, "My kids sit down and watch 5 episodes of a show in a row. You can watch a 3 hour movie." It's been unveiled that the Way of Water is going to be 3 hours and 10 minutes long. So without credits, we're looking at a solid 3 hour movie. And you know, when I would say no one complained when Endgame came out because Avengers Endgame was 3 hours long, but there were still articles saying like, "Here's the best places to go and take a piss during Avengers Endgame." And Cameron said, like, look, it's not rocket science. Just you're allowed to go pee, you know. But it's 3 hour movie, and there's been some interesting reactions from both sides of the opinion gate of Avatar, like whether you're just like no, or whether you're like yeah, like this is the best way of summing up whether you're like yeah or you know. And there's a lot of yeah about Avatar, and there'll always be that, I think. And Cameron has said that, you know, when the film got re-released, he suspected that people would kind of probably see it and realize that it was a lot better than they thought it was, and that, you know, they might reconsider it. And it seems a lot of people have done that, which is kind of cool. Anyway, the second trailer came out, the full official, you know, proper trailer came out on November 2nd, 2022. And wow, like I love the look of it. I really do. I'm really wondering how much they're keeping close to their chest in terms of big set pieces and stuff. Um, there's a feeling I have that there's going to be a major character death. You know, it seems like there's a lot of emotions going on in this film. Cameron has talked about how it's much more focused on character and family and emotion than spectacle, and that's why the film's so long. That intrigues me. But you know, it's no secret now that Quaritch is back as a Navi. There's no explanation why, but you see a Navi with kind of a crew cut and the same tattoo that he has. That was kind of revealed in images that were kind of being released throughout the year. And we see him in this second trailer, the main trailer, crushing a skull in his hands. And there's a theory that he went back to his human body in the jungle and crushed his own skull. That's a fucking metal moment. I hope that's true, and it feels like a Cameron moment. And is it truly a James Cameron film if you don't have a skull, being crushed? I don't know. Some would argue that yes, it wouldn't be a James Cameron film without that. But that's an intriguing, just that as an idea. Almost like if you I feel like Cameron could just like the whole story of Cameron just like flipping over the script and writing Alien and then a big S and two strokes through it, aliens with a dollar sign at the end of it, just being like, I almost feel like Cameron could just go, hey, this is a scene of Quaritch going back to his human body and crushing his own skull there, and it's like I'm in, I'm sold on this version of the character. I want to see what happens and where we're going with it. That's a really cool and dark fucking moment. If that is what, there could be the trailer guys playing around with fiddle fucking with different scenes. I don't know. But we get that shot of Neytiri kind of reminiscent from the first film, kind of coming through the sun-dappled leaves with the bow, and then she kind of catches herself with her pregnant belly and kind of holds it in. That was a bit that Connie, my fiance, was like really, oh god, and that gave her chills. And then we see the children, but mainly the focus was on Kiri, Sigourney Weaver's character, this 14-year-old Na'vi who's been adopted. The film apparently takes place 13 years after the first Avatar film, so clearly she is linked to Grace. Obviously, she's played by Sigourney Weaver. Visually, we could tell that it was Sigourney Weaver's face, a young Sigourney Weaver, which was really, and I just love that she's in the film. I love that Cameron is still working with her, because I feel like, Aliens is such a special film to me, and that he worked with her again in Avatar was so cool to me, and the fact that she's in these new movies is fantastic as well. But visually, obviously, they can do whatever they want, but I thought, how are they going to do the voice? Is this going to be a situation where they kind of do that fake voice kind of modulation stuff that they've been doing in the Star Wars shows? I thought, please don't do that. But it sounds like they've pitched it just slightly, and she sounds like a younger version of herself. I think that's really cool. It remains to be seen how it works in the full film, and some of the lines in the trailer felt a little bit off, maybe. But that scene where she's talking with Jake and she's like, "Dad, I hear her. I hear her heartbeat." He's like, "What does it sound like? Mighty." And people are like, "Oh, she's talking about Neytiri. Neytiri's died." I'm like, no, she seems like, through the visuals, it seems like she's talking about Awa or Grace. And there is an image of Kiri looking at one of Grace Augustine's video blogs through one of the screens. So I think that she's connected to her, and I think that either she's Grace's DNA or she's, I don't know, Grace's child. Who knows? I'm really intrigued to see. And this again, these things haven't been spelled out to us, and so you really, for me, get a lot of intrigue as to where these plot threads are going related to those two actors, Sigourney Weaver and Stephen Lang, coming back again when they died in the first film, and how those things are going to manifest themselves in the story in a logical way, which I'm sure James Cameron has figured out. Not that there's much logic in a science fiction world like this with fantastical elements like an Avatar, but you know what I'm talking about. So that I'm interested in. And speaking of trailers, Connie, she's very excited about the film. We saw the first film together. It's the first film we ever saw in the cinema together. It's very special to us. We love the first one. We're very excited for the second one. Hugely excited for it. And when I said to her the new trailer for Avatar is out, she was like, "Oh, is it going to show us the whole movie?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" And she said, "Don't you remember?" And I didn't remember that the original trailer for Avatar showed you the whole fucking movie. And so she put it on YouTube on this TV, and I was like, holy shit, you're right. Like, it shows you every major beat pretty much of the story. So I hope, I don't hope, because it really doesn't feel like we've learned all that much in the trailers, just that Jake and Neytiri have kids of varying ages. There's teenagers, there's the young girl, Took, and then there's Kiri, an adopted Na'vi daughter, and then there's Spider, an adopted human son that they have. Very big family that they've created for themselves. And there's some trouble, so they've gone to this water, ocean-faring clan of the Na'vi that look very different. And Kate Winslet is one of those characters, I think. And they need their help. And then the humans are coming back in with a vengeance, and they've got kind of water, kind of machines, underwater mech stuff. There's a brief glimpse of that in the first main trailer. And then obviously there's a big kind of huge warship, But man, that first main trailer, with hearing Sigourney Weaver's voice, just really moved me for some reason. Hearing it sound young again, but then getting these elements of the story, and then Jake saying to Neytiri, "Strong heart," what she said to him. oh, that was like a kind of goosebumps kind of moment, and the visuals, and the music was great as well. Like I thought that trailer was fantastic, and you know, I'm in the bag. I'm done. Like just leave it there. Then they released the third trailer like a few weeks later, and I'm like, oh god, they're gonna give away too much. I had to watch it. I couldn't not watch it. They do give away a bit more, especially that big scene of the big whale flopping over onto the warship or whatever it is. But it didn't seem to spoil too much either as well. So I hope there's no more trailers. We're a few weeks away from the film, a couple of weeks now away from the film coming out. So yeah, at least look, of me filming this, it's like 2 weeks in a day. Holy shit. That's crazy. That's really crazy. Anyway, so I've enjoyed the trailers. There's probably more I could talk about with me anticipating this film, but I feel like there's a huge element of the unknown about it too, and I'm really excited about that because I feel like I know what I'm getting myself in for this film, but I also feel like there's going to be some surprises. And Cameron has even said in interviews like he doesn't think anyone's going to be able to predict where this goes. I'll be very surprised if you sit there and think, oh yeah, this is what's going to happen. And I kind of trust him on his word, even as the guy who called Terminator Genesis the true Terminator 3, which heavily dented my my trust in James Cameron. But as a filmmaker of his own films, I trust his judgment, I trust his word, and I'm really intrigued to see where he goes with Avatar: The Way of Water, and specifically knowing that, this is part of the first script that was too big; it had to be split into two parts. Knowing that there's a three that's already been filmed, knowing that they filmed part four, and there's this grand plan, and that it isn't two trilogies. It's very specifically five because that's the story he wants to tell and hopes that he can tell. He said that this film needs to make a lot of money for it to be financially viable to continue them, but and that's another thing. Like people, he said that he sat down with the studio executives and said that the second movie needs to be like the third or fourth highest grossing movie of all time to make a profit, and that's counting in the budget of like all of these movies kind of. And then that was also years ago before some films that like Top Gun had come. I don't know. I feel like people were then extrapolating from that, and then the quote became, Cameron says this has to make over $2 billion or he won't make another one. It just, I hate that bullshit kind of stretching of the truth. But I do feel like all eyes are going to be on the box office more than the final product in a way. And if it doesn't make like, a bajillion dollars, people going, see, and I can just see it like, Last Jedi made like 1.5 billion or something like that. People are like, oh, look, it's a failure. It didn't make as much as Force Awakens. It's like, yes, it's very common for a sequel to have a drop off in box office. It is one of those things where I feel like Avatar 2 might make $2 billion and people will still call it a failure because it's not like it hasn't beat Titanic or Endgame or whatever. But when you're talking in billions of dollars, it just seems so silly and futile, doesn't it? But regardless, I'm intrigued to see that too. I'm intrigued to see where the box office ends up. But most of all, I just can't wait to see this film. I'm so excited. I can't wait. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. Um, you know, that I just had a thought in my head. I didn't know whether to share it or not, but I almost felt like when I was a teenager, sometimes when I get really excited about something, I would just think like, I think there's no way I'm going to get to see this film or watch that wrestling match because it's just the prospect of it is so great. Like there's no way I'll be lucky enough to witness something like that. So I'm probably just going to die. Like I would literally think to myself, well, I'm going to die soon because there's no way I'm going to actually get to see Brock Lesnar face The Rock at SummerSlam, or there's no way I'm going to actually get to see Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers in the cinema when it comes out next week. I'm just going to die. Like I'm going to get hit by a bus or something. And I almost feel that way about The Way of Water. I'm like, well, something's going to happen, and I'm about to go on a trip as well. So I'm like, well, there you go, plane goes down. It's just the way my mind works. But if I get there in the cinema, 16th of December, and I'm sat there to watch The Way of Water, it'll be a very happy day indeed. And even my dad is excited about it. I've never seen him like this. Not that I've seen him, but my brother was telling me, he's like, oh yeah, Dad says we're going to go see Avatar. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. Because he came over the house to put something together for me and Connie because we're both carpentarily inept, to coin a word that doesn't exist. So my dad was building this thing for us, and he just said to me, 16th, it's coming. And I'm like, fuck you talking about? He's like, 16th December, Avatar. I was like, Jesus Christ. Like, I've never known my dad to be excited about an upcoming film, like ever. You know, he was intrigued by the new Dark Knight Rises movie like 10 years ago, but apart from that, like, he loved Avatar. Like, he loved it. And so he's really excited. And he wants to see it in 4DX. Like, he loves all that stuff. Even though my dad, you know, I hate it. He mainly watches films on his laptop with the like cam copies, you know. And I'm just, how can you watch a film like that? You know, he's like, well, my eyesight's so bad it looks like HD to me. So, you know, but he still wants to see Avatar on the big screen and 4DX and all that stuff. Anyway, so hopefully I'll get to see it with my dad too. That'll be a nice experience. But I just want to get there with me and Connie in the same cinema we watched our first film in, seeing a new film from James Cameron. Really, really excited. And the trailers have been very promising visually. We just watched the trailer again the other day, and it was like a much higher quality version of it. And it was like, holy shit. Like, I just can't wait for these visuals, you know. And if there's a halfway decent, you know, emotionally gripping story to be had in there, awesome. And and Cameron has a track record with sequels, right? Aliens knocked it out of the park. Very different from the first film, but very much in line with it at the same time. Deeper emotional story. Terminator 2, bigger and better than the first film. In some ways, some would argue not better. Different. But again, it felt much different, but also felt very in line, and a thorough bridge between those two films felt connected to me in both cases of those sequels. But, you know, he absolutely killed it with both sequels. So will we see the same with Avatar 2? Will he go 3 for 3 on James Cameron sequels? We will see. Time will tell. And on December 16th, we'll all have an opinion if we all decide to go and see it on opening day. But very soon, we're going to be living in a post-Avatar, The Way of Water world. And I'm intrigued to see where that is as a film fan, as a Cameron fan. And you rest assured I'll be talking about it in probably more than one video. I want to give my first initial thoughts, then maybe a deeper review down the line. And if I see it in 4DX and in high frame rate, I want to talk about those experiences as well and really break it down. Or not. Maybe I'll watch the film and I'll hate it. And I'll say I'm not even going to bother doing another video about it. I don't know. We'll see. I'll only react as honestly as I can. So that is it for now. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Be gentle if you're a hater of the film. I don't know why you'd be watching this far into this video if you were not a fan of Avatar, but you know, it's not unheard of for people who hate things to endlessly watch things about them and then still complain about it. But anyway, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. I'll see you in the next one, which will be my thoughts for the first time on The Way of Water.